Thank you so much for having me. I feel privileged to be included in a show that's had so many esteemed guests.
Thank you very much. Well, it has been, you are I think the third guest now taking me back to my roots to the north. We've had Gemma Houghton from
Yeah,
Emmerdale, incredible lady. We've
I know
had
Gemma.
Jamie Jones Buchanan last week, so full on Northern accent. So I was looking forward to this one. I'm finally getting it back, going back to my roots and that Yorkshire accent. It's hard to sway, but by the end of this, I'm sure there'll be a few of the and thous. So.
We'll get stronger and stronger as we go through, won't we? I've lived in London for 20 years now, so but all my family's still there. I've just been there this weekend, so yeah, I'm
So it'll
sure
be
it'll get
it'll
stronger
be
and
brought
stronger.
to the top. It'll be brought to the top. Well, I've learned so much about you over the past couple of days, just really going in depth, and everything that you've achieved is testament to who you are as a person. But this is all about going deeper into the conversations and finding out more about yourself. So, from an external, you've raised a lot of money for charity. You're a huge advocate. You're in well-being space. You're also a journalist, media personality. You've interviewed some of the biggest names, but one of the biggest things that I love about interviewing people who are in that position, you've interviewed some of the biggest names in the world, but yet, who's interviewed you to find out about the person behind that? So today, mate, it's all about you. Can you take me from the beginning and all about your identity and how you struggle with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gay and I've known I was gay or different from a very, very young age. I mean, especially looking back now, I can certainly see that I knew. And I was a very happy. I come from a very loving family up north. We're all close together. All my parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncle were together as a family unit. Um, and then when I got to about nine, 10, I started to realize that I was different and that I kind of fancied boys where everyone else seemed to fancy girls. And then that perfect family unit, like kind of felt like an outsider because I didn't fit into this narrative or this norm that we were conditioned to believe was the normality, I guess. And then at that time, it was growing up in the 80s. The only gay people you'd see on TV were kind of really out, effeminate comedians. I'd hear negative talk about them. So I really struggled to grow up, being authentic and because I don't like the term, but because I was, I guess, straight acting, it was in one way a blessing, but in another a negative because I never really got picked on no one ever kind of called me out for being gay, but it meant that I could build a mask
Hmm.
and build a personality to hide behind. Um, and it wasn't until maybe 5 years ago that I really started to unpick the conditioned personality that I'd created to survive as a kid, which was no longer working for me as an adult, basically.
So how did that delve and go deeper in terms of, because what age was that when you started struggling with your identity?
About nine, like I realized I was different from about nine. And then, I remember being 13, 14, I used to cry myself to sleep every night, wishing that when I woke up, I'd be normal or be straight. And I remember, I shared a room with my brother who was 5 years older, and I used to remember like crying with the duvet over my head so he wouldn't hear me. Uh, yeah, and it was a very difficult time for me. Obviously, looking back, I did really struggle with my mental health as a kid and didn't realize, obviously, at that point how profound that was. But what I realized later on is that I was just constantly living in my head. I was constantly in a fear state. I was constantly thinking about everything I did and how it would be perceived by everyone else over this fear of, being found out or people realizing I was gay. So, for those from 9 to 18, 17, every action I did was thought out and processed in my brain before doing it, and then working out the fear or the consequences as a result of that. And I think that obviously has a knock-on effect as you get older, because then you're programmed to be in this fear state the whole time or to be in this insecurity state. Um, and it got to a point when I was 19 at uni, and I'd kind of gone to the furthest uni away from home. And as I say, I come from a very loving family, but I just didn't feel like I fit into
Hmm.
that norm. And I was obviously scared of, being rejected or being unloved or whatever. So I went to the furthest away uni I could find, and I started to come out there. but yeah, in the second year, I just got to a point where I was just exhausted, I think, from living in this state of unhappiness. And even though I had an amazing family and amazing friends, and on the outside, I was, very happy and living a great life. Like I was always the life and soul of the party. I think internally it was a facade, and I got to the point where I didn't want to live anymore. So, one drunken, stupid night, I tried to kind of take my own life. Um, Thankfully, wasn't successful. I mean, it was a very poor attempt, thankfully. But again, no one really knew because, I didn't tell anyone. It wasn't in the point where it was so obvious to people. So, no one ever knew that until about 15 years later when I started to tell people and talk about my story a little bit more. But obviously, that was the first big sign that I needed to look after myself, and I started getting counselling at that point.
So,
But as I say, it's been a long process since then to feel kind of the way I feel now.
so kind of a personal question, and if you're okay to answer it, in terms of
I'm an open book.
we can only speak from our unique experiences, so we can't speak for anybody else. But in your personal opinion or advice, how can people around start spotting signs if someone's pulling away or they are struggling with their sexual identity? Like, if you were to look back now, were these signs that you were trying to put out so that people would guess and it'd make it easier to step forward? Or had you just built that entire mask around you so deep that nobody would have guessed? Or was there little inklings that you were trying to, do you know what I'm saying? Trying to let
Yeah,
people
I do. I do.
know.
It's such a hard question, though. I mean, it's also a long time ago, and it's hard because I don't really associate with that. Like, I never really think about the attempted suicide because I'm so far removed from it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I was just really good at masking it. I don't think people, no one really knew. None of my friends, none of my family, no one ever knew that Everyone was really shocked to find out that I'd even done that years later because I was just so good at hiding it. And I think that's the sad thing, isn't it? Like, depression or mental health can come in many different shapes and sizes, and people can hide things. And obviously, I think I talked to my friends about it when I was maybe drunk. I used to, things used to spill out a little bit more. Um, but it's really hard to see the signs sometimes. I think it was just, you know, for me, I know it was not being able to live my authentic truth and my authentic life. And if you are trying to live a life that's not for you, eventually it's going to catch up on you.
Hmm.
So I mean, that's my biggest take on from it.
I think reading more about your story when you spoke about, and first of all, I want to know how you bloody got out of the country during COVID, because Australia, we had it the worst. We could not leave our bloody houses or anything, us, mate. So
I
how did
know, I
you
feel
get
sorry
out
for you.
first? How did you
Yeah,
get
so
traveling?
so COVID was a massive. I know it was tough for a lot of people, but for me, it was really life changing in a positive
Mm,
way. I had an amazing in the summer. We had an amazing summer for COVID, and I was seeing someone, and I was, really happy and falling in love or in love, and at a time where we were spending a lot of time together, life was great, and then it started to unravel, and we kind of broke up just as we were going into the winter lockdown. Anyone that knows the UK winters, they're not pretty. It's dark very early. The weather's crap. And I'm such a active outdoor person. I'm a sun whore. I love to travel. I love to do fitness. So just the thought of me being locked inside during the winter would be tough anyway. But going through a breakup, I knew that it was going to result in me maybe turning to, drinking too much or just unhealthy practices. So when we were going into the winter lockdown and airports were still open, I got a flight to Dubai. One of my best friends lives out there, so I got a flight to Dubai and I had a little backpack. And I originally had a return flight booked for 10 days, and I kind of just wanted to get out and mentally prepare myself, I guess. I don't know. I panic bought the flight. I was like, get me out of here. And then I ended up staying in Dubai with him for about 4 or 5 months.
no.
And then I just started to travel when some countries were open. So I went to Egypt, I went to Jordan. I ended up going to Tanzania. I lived in Zanzibar in a beach hut for 3 months. And there was you couldn't even tell it COVID was happening in Zanzibar. No one wore masks, everyone was out. I'd spend every day on the beach or every night having dinner on the beach, watching people play football, do gymnastics, and just I was doing my running, I was doing my meditating, and I was just doing self-help book after self-help book. I can't remember what the app is now, but it kind of gives you a 15-minute audio
Mm.
synopsis of each book and kind of brings out the highlights. Um, and I just realized that actually I thought at this age, I was about 40 at the time, that I was a confident, secure, happy grown up. And what I realized from the breakup is actually I was still masking my insecurities. I was bringing insecurities to the relationship. And the relationship breakdown was obviously a two-way thing, but I had to really look at myself and go, what did I bring to this? What were my insecurities? And then I learned about attachment styles. I learned about love languages, and I just really took a deep dive into sitting with who I was, what my feelings were, and rather than trying to numb them, probably if it had been normal, if COVID hadn't happened, I'd been in the UK, I'd have probably been going out more, drinking, covering up with socializing with friends. But I was, abandoned, not abandoned. I was on my own in Zanzibar with nothing to do but to read books and to, meditate and to swim in the sea. And it was a real healing process for me. And, I had so many serendipitous moments and moments where I had a spiritual awakening, I guess you could call it to some degree, and just really realized what life was meant to be. And I realized that for me, life was, you know, being happy and being at peace and traveling as much as possible and just not being in the rat race and not chasing expectations or achievements that maybe I never wanted to achieve, but kind of thought I should because that's the way that we're conditioned to grow up or we're conditioned to believe.
So this is going to get really interesting now because when you speak about your spiritual awakening, mine kind of happened, but I didn't know it was happening through IPC. I wasn't brought up with church, spirituality. I didn't know anything about it. Obviously, through this, a lot of things happened. A lot of prophets came to me, a lot of everybody spiritual was like, do you know it's being led? Do you know this? And I was like, I ain't got a bloody clue. Didn't know anything. It all happened. But when I read about yours, and the thing that I've learned along my journey is, again, everyone's is so unique. So when I started looking at things, I'm hearing about these Tom, Dick, and Harrys on, TikTok and social media saying spiritual awakening. This is what happens, da 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 da. And I'm like, that's happened, that's happened, that's happened. But where's this big shebang? I was expecting this bloody big shebang,
Yeah.
like something's going to happen. And so why didn't it happen for me? But it's so different. So can you tell us about your process and just kind of normalize what yours looked like?
It was just, I don't know, it was just resonating with things that had not resonated before. I'd read Eckhart Tolle's, I forgot what it's called. What's it called? His first big book. Anyway, I've read some books before and just not really got them.
Mm,
And then it was just I was listening to Abraham Hicks a lot. I was reading Eckhart Tolle and Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul, and things were just resonating with me so much, and I just understood them very clearly. And I'd have, goosebumps a lot when I read things or when certain things happened. I was just having these serendipitous moments where I'd bump into people or chat to people about something, and I don't know, like a hummingbird came and we were chatting about something spiritual about, life after death and
yeah.
people being around, and a hummingbird just came and circled us and just started flying around us as we were having this conversation, and we all just got goosebumps. There were three of us, and we were just like goosebumps, and it was, I don't know, I just started to recognize the signs, I guess, and meditating, I just really touched into my sixth sense and my understanding of I believe we've all got a guidance system and it's inside us. We've all got a sixth sense, and if we can shut the white noise out
Mm,
away and listen to ourselves, we have all the answers inside ourselves, or we're guided and we can get those answers. And it was just having that real clear understanding of I'm on the right path. This is guidance. This is a sign. This is a sign. But yeah, Abraham Hicks for me was a real intro into it. And I'm still kind of on that. Obviously, we mental health and well-being and spirituality is a never-ending practice. You don't get a degree in it and go like, oh, I've got this now. Like you're constantly learning, you're constantly having to relearn.
You would
And
think on
now I kind of,
TikTok, you would think on TikTok, half of them have got degrees in it though, wouldn't you?
yeah, and I do try to be transparent. It's like with my Instagram, I'm just kind of always showing. I'm very much into fitness and mental health, and I'm trying to show that obviously I want to promote the positives and I want to inspire people and show the good, but I also show the bad. I also show when I'm struggling a little bit or trying to learn the lessons myself. Um, and I think that's the most important thing is just to trust in your own ability and trust in your own guidance and listen to yourself and to be able to sift through everything so you know yourself what the answer is rather than. And it's hard. I spent 6 months in the UK and then 6 months traveling. Like as soon as the summer's over, in about 2 weeks now, I'm getting out of the country again. And that's been since COVID, like every 5 years since then I've gone. And I must admit, when I'm traveling, it's so much easier to be aligned with your spiritual self, I guess, because you're in a flow state. You're kind of just following what feels right. You're surrounded by more like-minded or open people, and then to come back to London and do it when you're in a more conditioned society of what's expected, it's a lot harder to still be in that,
Yeah.
mindful flow state. So that's the struggle really, but also that's the work, isn't it?
So then, when it comes to your identity and you went through your spiritual awakening, how did that change the person that you are to then start living your authentic self? You're embracing your imperfections and just saying, this is who I am and take me or leave me. When was that pivotal moment for you?
Um, I don't necessarily know if it was one pivotal moment. It was just gradual from that point in COVID. I just started to I set up an Instagram page called Mindful Moment,
Mm.
and it was just me basically sharing my lessons, sharing my journey of trying to understand what was important and really understanding that what success is to us. It's about being happy. It's about peace of mind. It's about living our true life. And caring more about what we think of ourselves than what other people think. Learning to love and accept yourself is the main goal, I think, for everyone. Like we should all be striving to be able to look ourselves in the mirror and say, yes, you're imperfect, but I love you regardless. I accept you for who you are. And for me, it was just one side, one side kind of forgiving myself for my mistakes and forgiving other people for the mistakes they made that they didn't really even make mistakes. I guess it's realizing that, we're all just doing the best we can. And once I got to that point where I just kind of loved and accepted myself for who I was, and I had no kind of hurt towards anyone else or no pain towards anyone else, then I could just start showing myself. And sometimes you do feel a bit cringe, or sometimes you are a bit like, I hope this is what was interesting actually at the time and still now is the way it's received from other people.
Mm.
I find that really interesting because some are like, oh my God, I love this journey, or I love this message, or thank you for sharing. And others is a bit like, some are like either you're attention seeking or they're a bit like, are you all right?
Yeah.
Do you need to talk? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm great. I'm just kind of sharing what's going on. I'm just
Yeah.
sharing my process. And, I've never felt better. I'm in a really great place. But some people saw you as almost a cry for help,
Yeah.
which was interesting. But yeah, just gradually from then, little by little, I've just got to the point now where I've really understand who I am as a person, you know, what I can control, what I can't control, where I want to be and where I want to go, and yeah, the person that I want to be basically, and that's what I'm focusing on. So yeah.
So when it comes to your career, and you've done a lot in your time with your advocacy and then moving into journalism and then working on shows and being media trained and everything, a question I like to ask people who work and obviously interview people, and it's not regarding them, but what is the commonality you have noticed when you've got to know celebrities, when you've got to know big names and being around those people? Because one thing that I try to get across to people is that we're all human. So
Yeah.
you being somebody who's interviewed, who's worked with them, predominantly probably built relationships with a lot, because I have through this as well. What have you noticed? What's the commonality that people think we're so far? There's a huge disconnection because someone's got this quote unquote title, a celebrity.
Well, we're all exactly the same, aren't we? We all have ambitions, we all have fears, we all have insecurities. Like I wouldn't want to be that famous, having learned what they have to deal with, and we all are going through our own childhood traumas or our own insecurities. And with celebrities, it's heightened. Yes, the benefits might be heightened, but then so are the judgments and the fears and the I think it's hard being judged by so many people.
Mm.
So many people having an opinion on you, and then also with social media now and the internet voicing that opinion. I do media training for Love Island over in the UK, and really trying to get them to understand that, like, you whether you're loved or you're hated, it doesn't matter. Like, people's opinions of you don't matter. The only opinion that matters is the opinion of yourself.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say that, but it's really hard to believe it when thousands of people are commenting on the way you look, you act, on your personality, on a 5 second clip out of a 24-hour day. So I think, yeah, I mean, they just find it harder to trust people, which we can probably all relate to. But yeah, and that's how I built my relationships with the celebs. I think because I was never that career hungry in terms of the journalism, it never really sat true with me. I was never one of these journalists that was wanting to get the story or wanting to get the scoop. I was a lad from Leeds that kind of fell into showbiz journalism. So I was going to all these parties and getting free drinks and going to these festivals and stuff. So I would just kind of chatting to celebs as a friend, or just wanting to kind of ask the geeky music questions rather than trying to get the story, I guess. And I
Yeah.
guess that's how I built my career, and that's um, how I got to know them. So I kind of think they felt a bit more safe with me, and they trusted me a little bit more, rather than other journalists that were that could tell were trying to get the story. And I'm never saying that I never crossed the line. And sometimes, I did, something might have been in a bit more confidence and I printed it, but you learn the lessons then, and you learn what kind of journalist you want to be and what kind of person you want to be, like everything in life, I think.
I think that might be, and I can't speak for everyone, but maybe a Northern Charm kind of thing, because
Yeah.
how we brought up as well. Like, I don't care about accolades and all the rest of it. And half of these people on my campaign, I went, and I'll see if you think the same. So I went to LA, and I'm going to an Emmy Award thing with a casting director I knew. Then I just watched how everybody in these circles, everyone's throwing business cards around and all this. And I was like, this ain't me. Like, I'm not a kid, but I'm a guy from, I won't say Barnsley, I'll say Penistone. I'm back in Yorkshire. And I stood at the side, I noticed this guy, and I started talking to him, asking about how he did this when everyone's like trying to get attention. And he was like, I'm just in the band, I'm here with my fiance. Stood there rest at night. It was like, I'll introduce you to my fiance. Happened to be the star of the evening who was singing. Then there was the guys
Right.
from Queer Eye of the Straight Guy who came over to us. Then there was fashion designers in Hollywood. And then the casting director I came with, she was like, Heather, did you get around all? And I was like, by being my bloody self. I didn't.
Yeah.
So I think it is a northern charm. But a question that I do ask everybody, James, is with everything that you have been through, what does being imperfectly perfect mean to you?
I think it's just, being authentic, number one. Like I say, loving and accepting yourself for who you are, realizing that things are not really good or bad, they're just part of a journey. And it's just accepting things for what they are, and to strive to have a growth mindset, I guess. To wanting to improve or looking to improve, but also accepting that where you are is fine. If you mess up, it's okay. You're on a journey. And I think, having that spiritual side, I believe our journey is not to necessarily achieve certain things, but it's to kind of come back to remembering why we're here or who we are, that we're all kind of just doing the best we are, and we've all got a part to play in this. And I think, um, our greatest achievements, I read somewhere that your greatest achievements, you'll never know your greatest achievements because they're not what you think you've achieved. It's the ripple effects that you have on all these people that you meet along the way, and that what you give them or teach them or inspire them or hand them or pass down to them. And I think we do that by just being brave enough or vulnerable enough to accept ourselves for who we are, live the life that's right for us rather than the life that we're taught we should live. And then by by sharing that with other people, and some people will get it and some people won't, and that's not your business really. It's just about accepting and loving yourself and trying to have a positive impact in whatever way possible, whether that's by doing something big or doing something small.
And with what you're doing with your advocacy and everything else, fitness, you're running more retreats now and helping a lot more
Um,
people in well-being. So tell us about that.
yeah. Yeah, I'm going to Vietnam in a couple of weeks to coach over there for 3 months, which will be the longest working stint I've had for 7 years since taking redundancy. So I'm self-employed and I like to dip in and out of things rather than committing. But I'm really excited to be, getting people to focus on mindset and, um, believing in themselves and giving people to the tools to change for the better. Um, 'Cause mindset is such a huge thing, and I don't think most of us realize just obviously how our thoughts create our reality, and how most of us have a negative mindset programmed and that we have to kind of unprogram. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to trying to inspire people to make some changes. And also for me, I'm 46 now. I had to think about that. But about 2 years ago, 44, I went through another little transition where I felt like I peaked and I was on the decline. Like my running times were never as good anymore, and I was struggling to physically do what I used to be able to do. But since then, I've kind of found High Rocks, which is a sporting event, and I'm really dialed into it. And I've realized that actually, mid 40s, you don't need to decline. You can still improve. Obviously, definitely with a mindset approach, but also with a fitness approach. And I really want to inspire other people to, not to get to a certain age. And again, we're kind of told through, old conditioning that you'd reach 40 or 50 and then you were kind of on the
Rusty.
decline. And
Yeah.
it's, yeah. And I've realized that I can't go drinking and partying anymore and still achieve what I used to be able to do fitness wise. I've had to pick and choose. I need to take more rest. I need to do more mobility. I need to have more slow days. But at the same time, I can still push myself as much. And, my running times are coming down to as fast as they've ever been. I'm hitting podiums at High Rocks. So I really want to kind of inspire people to realize that life's not over at 40 or 50, that it's actually just you can achieve whatever you want just in a different way.
I can't believe you bloody 46, mate. That's
Thanks.
like, guys, you need to
Good
check it.
lighting.
Yeah, good skin routine, mate. And looking obviously on your Instagram and your stories, and you're winning a lot of these. You're getting up on the podium like first, second, or third place, and you're
Yeah.
shredded, mate. So 46, you're not doing bad. You're not doing bad for a British guy.
And I guess it's just a lifetime of habit. Like I've always, and that was the thing. I was from my early 20s, I've always focused on sport and exercise, and it's really been a foundation for my mental health. It's something that I can always fall back on and rely on. And whatever you're going through, good or bad, you've always got this base. So I'm such an advocate for physical activity, whatever your level, just getting out and moving, being outside, going for a walk, going for a run, going to the gym. Um, but also, what I've learned over my journey is that to be healthy, you need to be mentally healthy and physically healthy at the same time. And I think for a lot of the time, I was physically healthy, but not mentally healthy. So I think now I've kind of got that holistic approach. And again, I want to share that. That's with my fitness coaching. I really want to get into the mindset as well as the physical.
So where can people find out more information about coaching with you and working on well-being?
I guess the main one is my main Instagram, which is just James Ingham official. And then there's some other links on there, but yeah, that's the one. And if anyone's, you know, has any questions or is
Really
thinking
selling
about
yourself
entering
there, mate.
wanting to DM me, slide into the DMs. I'm not averse to that. But anything to do with fitness, sport, high rocks, well-being, what I've realized is again, we all need money and we all need to live the life which we can, but it's never been about material things for me or success. I mean, obviously you want to be successful, but it's more about just sharing what I've learned. I want other people to find the passion in fitness or sport or high rocks that I have. And I want other people not to have to go through the years of struggle I had internally before they start living a better, more fulfilled, happier life.
Totally, totally get it. That's what the Imperfectly Perfect campaign was. A few pictures, putting out the reality of what we go through. We're human.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think, and sorry, I just want to put this last one to you. Do you think everything that you've been through the identity, through spiritual, do you look back often now and believe, and some people won't want to hear this when they're going through the thing, but everything we go through is a lesson, isn't it? So do you think you were meant to go through that to become the person that you are today, to go into the world and create that ripple effect in the areas that you do to help all those people behind you who are going through
Yeah.
exactly the same thing? Even though it's not
Just
now,
got
it's easy to go through.
No, I've just got massive goosebumps.
Mm.
So for me, I call them truth bumps. So if somebody says something to me and I get goosebumps, for me, it means that it's true. So I don't know. I've not really thought too much about that before, but I guess I must think it's true because I've just got goosebumps you saying that, which is really interesting. I do think we all have a journey and a path, and we are in control of that. But there's also, like you say, lessons to be learned. And when I look back on certain things, I just see it as stepping stones to get to where I'm supposed to be. So yeah, I guess I do believe that maybe not the specifics. I think maybe different things could have had a lot happened along the way, but I'd still be at this point. Like this is my journey, and I'm supposed to be here, I guess. Um, and I do think that a lot of the things which at the time I thought were the worst things to be happening to me, in retrospect, I can now see were the best things.
Yeah.
I think it's I've got a memory like today. Gabby Bernstein, is it, who says rejection is redirection in a
Mm.
different way or something. And I do believe that a lot of things have led me to this point. And it's weird. I do have a memory as a kid of one of my fears when I was a kid is that I'd die before doing what I was supposed to do, before achieving what I was supposed to achieve.
Wow.
And that was like, I don't know, 7 or 8. And I remember being scared that I was going to die before doing and I still don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. But I guess it's just, living an authentic life. I guess I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's funny. I do have that memory as a child. That I was scared that I'd die before doing what I was supposed to do. Yeah.
Wow. I thought I'd tell you this one before you go because you've obviously interviewed Whitney Houston. So through
Oh
my
yeah.
spiritual journey, like obviously love that woman. There's no one that beats her when it comes to singing. And I was going through a hard time with IPC. Everything was taking off, pressing everything. And just behind the scenes, I was like, what am I doing? Everything's going fast. I was in my head. I got in the car, turned the radio on, and it's not like the radio these days, like say 7 years ago, just plays Whitney Houston old songs on. And the song that
Yeah.
came on was Step by Step. And it was the first time I
Love
listened
that
to
song.
the lyrics. I was like, holy shit, step by step. I was working in construction. I left my career in fitness, working in construction. I was building the foundations brick
Yeah.
by brick, step by step. So I was like, yeah, I've got to tell him that because obviously you interviewed her. So
I do. Icon. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? Just focus on the little task in hand. Don't look at the journey too far ahead. Just focus on that step.
exactly.
Um, another good little hack is, to have a feel good playlist. Like
Mm.
pay attention to what you ingest, not just food, but in your ears, with your eyes. I kind of went through when I went through the spiritual awakening, and I stopped watching, some TV dramas that I liked just because I realized they actually kind of give me anxiety. I stopped watching the news, even though I work in the media, which is a bit ironic, I know. Um, I started to unfollow people on social media that maybe didn't make me feel that good. And I
Mm.
just started to follow people that inspired me or made me feel something positive. I only started to read or watch things that actually I came away with feeling better. So
Yeah.
really notice how your surroundings make you feel. That's what you have control of. You have control over what you ingest and digest and focus on.
Well, this has been an awesome conversation. We've already spoke about what's coming up for you. You're getting out of England because you're coming to your winter. We're
Yeah,
coming to our summer. So you'll have to do Australia soon and do Tough Mudder. They do Tough Mudder here. They do what you do as
right.
well, but Tough Mudder is a big one over here. Um,
I've been to Australia for the last few years. Actually, I've come out for the summer, so I'll probably be over there at some point.
ah,
Yeah,
well, let us know
I
when
love
we'll.
Australia. You're very lucky. I went first of all when I was 21 and fell in love with it, and I lived there for a year, and I've been about 10 times since. So I think if I could live anywhere, I'd probably live over there, but they don't
You
want
went
me
back
now. I'm too
home.
old.
You went back home to London. Like, Well, I'm going to put all the links up to where you can find James. He's off for 3 months to his retreat, so he's going to have a good time. But thank you so much for what you do and for sharing your story, James. And when we connected, couldn't wait to get you on for the good old Northern that's putting Yorkshire on the map, even though you live in London. So thank you very much. And guys, just remember, keep having the hard conversations because it is the hard conversations that do save lives.